request our speaker, Dr. David Wolf. He is going to express his experience, vast knowledge about the three gunas and empirical basis of happiness. Sir,
thank you. Yes, are you hearing me now?
Yes, your voice is
very good. Okay, thank you, Samyak, and thank you, Bharat. I'm very enlivened by your presentation. Thank you, Bharat. Yes, and so thanks for inviting me. Vedic Perspectives of Psychology for Upliftment of Human Consciousnness. And so it's a natural task. What is this human consciousness? A few years ago, I was invited to give a presentation. It was at a hospital in Colorado. And so the audience was doctors, nurses, medical professionals. And so I started the presentation. I said, let's say someone comes to you and says, I've hurt my finger. So I asked them and I said, so in that simple phrase, my finger, there are two entities. There's the finger and the owner of the finger. My finger, the finger and the owner of the finger. So I asked the doctors, the nurses, the psychiatrists, I asked, who are you treating? Are you treating the finger or the owner of the finger? And they were a little stunned. The director of the hospital system said, well, David, that's a simple question, but really we've never thought about it. So I said, well, it's really very important because there's no healing power, there's no healing potency in the finger. The finger's made of the same stuff as this chair or this table. It's dead matter. The healing potency is in the owner of the finger, that irreducible quanta of consciousness, the irreducible quanta of consciousness that animates the body. Teilhard de Chardin, he said, we're not human beings having a spiritual experience. We're spiritual beings having a human experience. And so, to use another analogy, just like if I'm driving in a car, let's say if I'm driving in a Volkswagen, and I think I'm German, and then the next day I'm driving in a Toyota, and I think I'm Japanese, and the next day I'm in a Chevrolet, and I think, oh, I'm American. So he said, well, that's ridiculous. That's just the car you're driving. The car was made in Germany, America, or Japan. But you're not the car, you're the driver of the car. Right. So similarly, this body is like a vehicle. There's a Sanskrit, Bharat mentioned Bhagavad Gita as it is. That's one of my most inspiring books from A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. Dihinosmin yatadehe kumaram yoganam jara tatadehantara praptyo dirasthatranamuyati. That this body's like a vehicle. As the embodied soul continually passes in this body from childhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at the time when this vehicle is finished. So consciousness means the self turning towards itself in awareness that I'm not the finger, I'm the owner of the finger, I'm not the vehicle, I'm the driver of the vehicle, I'm the driver. At the same time, the vehicle has its importance. Most important is the driver of the car. Just like, let's say if we hear there was a car crash. Do we immediately say, oh, is the car okay? I hope it's not in the junkyard. No, we ask, was anyone injured? Did anyone die? Because we know the driver is more important than the car. Maybe later we'll ask, oh, is the car okay? Did you get the insurance money? Things like that. So at the same time, so we're spiritual beings having a human experience. To know our vehicle is important. Just like if I'm driving a vehicle, I want to know what sort of gas mileage does this vehicle get. If I'm driving a vehicle, I want to know if I press the accelerator 1 inch, will it accelerate very quick, or will it barely move? Is this a type of vehicle that can fit into tight city parking spaces? Is this an 18-wheel truck? So it's important to know our vehicles. And the three gunas, because we're spiritual beings having a human experience, the three gunas help us to understand the human experience, help us to understand our vehicle, as Bharat was discussing, our psychophysical nature. And so the gunas, they're a way to understand, they're a way to categorize matter, and they also are the stuff that matter is made of, both. The matter is made of the three gunas, and the three gunas provide us a framework through which we can understand matter. And so the guna means rope. And there are three gunas. One is tamas, which means inertia. The other is rajas, which indicates it's like the mode of activity. And that the other guna is sattva, which indicates enlightenment or goodness. The name of our institute is Sattva Tov. Bharat mentioned Sattva Tov, mentioned the work book Relationships That Work. We have our Sattva Tov seminars, our Sattva Tov Institute School of Transformative Coaching. So Sattva Tov, it's a word I kind of made up about 20 years ago, and it's combined with two words from ancient wisdom traditions. There's sattva from the ancient Sanskrit and tov from the ancient biblical Hebrew. Tov means goodness, just like sattva. So we're endeavoring to uplift consciousness in the world through the programs of Sattva Tov Institute. So the title here of this presentation is The Three Gunas, an Empirical Basis for Happiness. In the 1990s, as part of my PhD program, I developed a personality inventory, kind of like a personality inventory, like the Myers-Briggs of the personality inventory, the Minnesota multiphasic. These are popular personality inventories. So I developed a personality inventory based on the psychology, founded on the psychology of the three gunas as described in ancient literatures like Bhagavad Gita. Bharat also mentioned Srimad Bhagavatam. His children read the Srimad Bhagavatam. So this describes the science of the gunas. And so I took Vedic hypothesis, Vedic assertions as the hypothesis for developing the Vedic personality inventory. And the Vedic hypothesis essentially is that sattva, the idea is, to the extent that we develop and cultivate sattvic worldviews and sattvic habits, activities, that is going to positively correlate with happiness, with fulfillment, with inner security, with peace, all of those qualities that we're seeking. Saint Francis said, we are searching for what is searching, meaning we're in all of our doing and all of trying to attain fame and money and whatever we're seeking outwardly, we're always looking for an internal experience of power, empowerment, satisfaction, joy, bliss, peace, vitality. And St. Francis said, we are searching for what is searching, that those qualities are intrinsic within us. And we naturally connect with and uncover those qualities to the extent that we develop sattvic worldviews and habits, mental habits. It could be whether it's habits in financial management, habits in the way we think, habits in eating, habits in sleeping, habits in all areas of life. And so the the research we did in developing the Vedic personality inventory, it completely supported the Vedic version, the Vedic assertions, that those who have the sattvic worldviews and habits, again, in whatever life area, and in communication, and in habits around family, that correlated with deeper, fuller experience of inner satisfaction, inner peace, empowerment, joy, vibrancy. And so we can think of, like, let's say there's all sorts of threads. Guna means rope or thread. So let's say there's all sorts of threads tied up in a knot. And so generally speaking, if we pull a thread, the knot becomes tighter and more hopeless. But sometimes in the tangle, we can pull a particular thread in a certain way and it begins to untangle. So in any life situation, including relationship tensions, or in any situation around our health, that if we're pulling the rajas or tamas thread, we're going to become more entangled in illusion, more alienated from ourselves, more and more in the illusion that I'm the car and forgetful that I'm the driver of the car. And when we find the sattvic thread, which we can do to the extent that we take shelter of guidance of those who are very learned and masterful in finding the sattvic thread, when we find the sattvic thread, then the knot in the heart becomes unentangled. Bijate vidyagvantish chijante sarvasamshya kriyante chasya karmini trishta eva manishvari. The knot in the heart is pierced and all misgivings are alleviated. and then we become free from that karmic knot. And so in 2017, the Association for Coach Training Organizations, they invited me. Their international conference was in Toronto that year. This wasn't just coaches, but these were like the founders of coach training schools and coach trainers internationally. And there was about 150 participants in Toronto, and they invited me as a representative of the Sattva Institute School of Transformative Coaching to give a keynote workshop entitled Mantra Meditation and Transformative Coaching. And so I appreciated very much how Bharat spoke about mantra. Mantra is sound vibration that consists of the names of the divine that frees the mind from illusion, from material entanglement, and supports the self to turn towards itself in self-discovery and to turn towards the supreme in a spirit of loving devotion. So I'm mentioning mantra because a genuine mantra, this is sattvic sound vibration. Again, the principle is in all areas of life, including just like right now it's a little bit before sunrise where I am in Florida. So I like to get up at least an hour or a few before sunrise, because just like everything is permeated by the modes of nature, the work we do, the foods we eat, how we communicate. And so those early morning hours are especially sattvic hours when spiritual activity is especially potent. I mean, it's nice to do spiritual reading and spiritual chanting, spiritual meditation, all times of the day, 2 in the afternoon, 8 at night. But the early morning hours, it's especially potent because that's when sattva is strong. So at this conference in Toronto with the founders of coach training schools, They were eager to learn how to use mantra to support their coaches and their clients. So we taught them. We taught them the psychology, the philosophy, and the practice of utilizing mantra to create transformation, upliftment of human consciousness. Human consciousness, well, every living entity has consciousness, and the distinctive feature, the special gift of human consciousness, Jivasya Tattva Jigyasa Nartayas Karmabi, the distinctive feature of human consciousness is that we get to have inquiries in just what we're talking about here. We get to ask questions like, who am I? Whereas the other species, they don't get to ask questions like, what happens upon the death of the body? Is there a supreme entity? What's the purpose of my life? What am I avoiding? The basic activities of the other species are eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. And of course, we don't want to neglect taking care of the car. We don't want to neglect our eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. Still, if that's all we're doing with our distinctively human consciousness, then it's like an unfortunate waste. With human consciousness, we get to consciously engage in self-realization, realizing who we are as the driver of the car, and to the extent that we give ourselves to sattvic worldviews and sattvic habits and activities, we will be alive and joyful in self-realization, that distinctive opportunity of the human consciousness. So actually at this conference in Toronto, and also last year, the National Association of Social Workers here in the United States, their Florida branch, invited me to give a similar presentation at their annual conference in Orlando, Florida. And that was entitled Mantra Meditation and Social Work Practice. And at these conferences, I taught them the Maha Mantra that Bharat mentioned. It's described in the Svetashvatara Upanishad, Iti Shadashakam Nam Nam, Kali Kama Sanashanam, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. That in this particular age, this Maha Mantra, it's especially recommended for self-realization, to support the self, to turn towards itself in self-discovery. And so, so the three gunas as an empirical basis for happiness, fulfillment, empowerment, peace, security, all those qualities that everyone's seeking. In terms of the sound vibration we utter and expose ourselves to, we can find out what is that sattvic or pure sattvic vibration that will support me to achieve that most distinctive goal of human consciousness, self-realization and consciousness of the Absolute. And here in Safetov Institute, Bharat also mentioned this in reference to my book, Relationships That Work, The Power of Conscious Living. Here in Safetov Institute, we focus a lot on not just a collection of communication tools, but a communication-based approach to self-realization. And so, just like, in how we listen or don't listen, there's ways to be a listener in tamas, inertia, in rajas, passion, like rajasic listening might be like, I'm listening to you, but I'm not so much listening to what you're saying. I'm listening to what I'm saying about what you're saying. And maybe I'm listening, but I have some agenda to prove that you're wrong or to get you on my team. Whereas in sattvic listening, I'm ready to be a pure mirror, simply with a compassionate heart, empathy, deeply receiving and hearing you, and you feel completely understood, that our association is a safe space and a safe place for you to express whatever's in your heart. That's sattvic spiritual listening. Similarly in communication, maybe if I'm very if I'm very influenced by tamasic mode, I'm too scared to communicate my truth. I'm too scared. Maybe in Rajasic mood, maybe I'll say the truth. But sattvic communication, it's not just saying the truth. It's saying the truth in a way where I'm dedicated, that I'm going to communicate the truth in a way that's truly beneficial for everyone. It's truly win-win. I might tell you the truth. I might say things that are difficult or challenging or even unpleasant for you to hear. At the same time, I'm dedicated to communicate my truth, my perceptions in a way where you get that I truly care about you. I truly care about true karuna, true mercy, true grace. I'm sharing the truth in a way that's beneficial for your upliftment of human consciousness. So I thank you again for inviting me. I thank you again for inviting me. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, sir, for presenting your amazing knowledge and experience with spiritual touch